Bridgette Downer. Here we are at our final Farm and Forest Explorers video series. We're here at my own personal farm, me and my family's personal farm, and I'm standing in front of our coop. It's called a woods-style chicken coop. If you remember last week, we were introduced to the chicks and learned all about the interesting facts of chickens. Well, now we're actually going to see how they live, and we may end up collecting some eggs. So the idea behind the coop is that the air can flow, the cool air flows in through here, and then it's exhausted through the windows up high. And it creates this circular loop that keeps things really, really cool. Now, luckily, it's on a trailer, as you can see the wheels, and so we move it. In the winter, we actually point this wall to the south. And by doing that, the sun heats up inside the coop because we cover it with a thin, clear plastic. So all the chickens will be hanging out right there. So we try to manipulate things so it's the ideal conditions for the hens. We definitely want happy hens. So would you like to go in and see where the chickens sleep and where they lay eggs? Follow me. All right, here we have our egg-laying boxes. So if you can see, oh, none there, but there's some. And here, wow, can you count how many are there? 8 of them. And then all along here. And some down there too. So our hens have been busy. I actually have 80 hens right now because I'm taking care of Butler's hens. As you can see here, we have roost bars. And this is where the chickens sleep, on the roost bars. Here we have one of our younger hens, and they're not easy to catch, but I can show you how you hold her. You always make sure that the wings are held tight, because if not, they'll try to flap and sometimes they can hurt. And you try to support the feet if you can. That obviously is the rooster crowing, letting us know he's king of the roost. So, some interesting things about a chicken. The comb, which is right here, is actually their air conditioner. So it lets the heat off. And down here are wattles, and they serve the same purpose. Now, every 6 months to a year, the chickens molt, which means they lose all their feathers. And they actually do this so they can regrow new feathers, so they'll have insulation for the winter. And a lot of times, we'll put a little band around their leg so we know how old they are. And this little hen seems very content. She's got a nice life, and she doesn't mind being held for a little bit. All right. Some of the other interesting points about the coop I can show you are our waterers right here. So right here, this is a really nice way to allow the chickens to get water. These are called nipple waterers, and they basically, with their beaks, they press up, and there's a ball inside, which actually moves, and then drops of water come out and come down. So it keeps their waters really, really clean. Now, I want to introduce you to one of the members of members of our farm. These are our Nigerian dwarf goats. This is Shadow. And she is Snowy's mom. Now, a lot of people raise Nigerian dwarf goats for milk. They will provide up to 1 quart of milk a day. But first, they have to get pregnant and have a doeling or a buckling, which is a doeling is a baby girl goat, a buckling is a baby boy, and they love to scratch. So all of these grapevines are really, really comfortable, really great for them. Anyway, so once they have their babies and they raise their babies up, they're still going to be producing milk. And that's when farmers can milk them twice a day and get up to 1 quart of milk that you could drink fresh or turn into cheese. So these guys have their summer coats on, and as you can see, they really, really like rubs. They're very, very friendly. Now, something interesting to note is that sometimes goats are born with little horns, and they actually cut them off. They burn them and cut them off. But other times, they're born what's called polled, which means they don't have any horns at all. And it's a genetic trait. So that's kind of whether we have blue eyes or brown eyes, that kind of thing. So we love these goats. They're actually quite old. They're 10 years old and 7 years old. But how about next off we head into the woods and do some exploring there. Hi, here we are on the forest's edge. And I thought today we'd do a little tree leaf identification. Right here we have a 4-pointed leaf, and this is the Tulip Poplar. Luckily, we've found evidence of flower petals as well as seeds and the new fertilized seeds growing on the tree. So that right there is a tulip poplar. And as you can see over here, the tulip poplar is usually one of the straightest trees in the forest. The Native Americans called it the canoe tree. And these are the ones that get really big in our forests. Now, over here, walk along. Here, we have a really nice American dogwood. And you can see the flowers that have just expired and the seeds that are forming. But if you notice something about the dogwood, it's very, very veinated. So see all those veins? A lot of leaf veination. And if you can find the Kusa dogwood, you can actually eat those fruits. It's not the native one, but those fruits are delicious. They're bright pink, about this big, and they're very sweet. Okay, moving on. Here we have the sassafras. No. I apologize. It's the sweet gum. All right. How did I mistake the sweet gum? We've got 5 pointed leaves. And I'm not sure if we can show you the bark because this is such an immature one. But there you can see an interesting kind of a wing on the bark. And that's the sweet gum. And they make really interesting seeds. Kind of look like balls almost. Little balls of fluff. Okay. And moving on. This is a classic. You may see it on the Canadian flag. This is a maple. There's lots of different kinds of maple. The Canadian maple, the sugar maple, the silver maple. And these get really, really big. Maples are really hard wood too. Okay. And here we have one of my favorite trees. Most easily identified not by the leaves, but by the bark. If you can see, it looks like lots of little boxes. And this produces one of the sweetest fruits, and it's native. It's called the American persimmon. And there's an example of some of its young leaves. And our last specimen of the day is a sassafras tree. The sprouts along the base can be uprooted, and you can peel the bark off of the roots, and with that peeled root you can actually make a most delicious tea. Some people eat the leaves and make tea out of the leaves, and it's an extremely delicious taste. It almost tastes a bit like root beer. So that's the sassafras. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and over the last 5 weeks. It's been a pleasure experiencing the farm and the forest with you, and I look very much forward to meeting you in the future.